Song of Confidence because it just makes sense. It's Rhyme and Reason 412.
There's a rhyme and reason for your life. There's a rhyme and reason why.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. It's Tony here. How you doing? You feeling good today? You kind of warming up to the whole idea of never getting out and about anymore? I don't think it's going to be that. I'm just kidding. But I do know that a lot of people are kind of getting a little shaky in their confidence in the government, and rightfully so in some ways. Getting a little shaky in their confidence in things to do with medical, et cetera, et cetera. The news media is spinning things in ways to make people fear, and that's not a good way to live, by the way. And so I figured I'd talk about the song of confidence that's found in Psalms. But before I get to that, I'd like to ask kids who can define the thermodynamics first law. Who can define that? Now, easy, settle down. Susie, your hand is always up. Let someone else have a turn, okay? Wow, everybody wants to answer. Okay, well, let's see. Yeah, Tommy, tell us.
Yes, the thermodynamics. Thermodynamics? Is that right?
No, it's thermodynamics.
That's right. Thermodynamics first law says that all or even part of the energy in the universe is always constant.
Now, that's a great answer, Tommy. You'll get a gold star today. And what that means, class, is no mass or energy is actually being created or destroyed. It's just changing forms. Isn't that interesting? Now, what else does that tell us about the thermodynamics first law?
It means
Heather, remember, we don't just blurt out our answers. We raise our hands and take turns, when you're called upon.
Sorry, teacher.
That's okay. Now, why don't you go ahead and finish your answer, Heather? It's okay.
Okay, it means energy can't make itself.
That's a good answer, Heather. And if mass and energy can't create themselves, then something or someone else did, right?
Right.
If only classrooms could look and sound like that. Maybe not the same voices, but you know what I'm talking about. Well, actually, small homeschool classes, they actually can look and sound like that, but government schools can't, and they don't, because scientific laws, like the first two laws of thermodynamics, they actually show how mass and energy in the universe had to have been designed, and not by themselves, Countless experiments have verified this, and that's a link in the show notes. You can go to that and see what I'm talking about with those countless experiments. So if that can't be proved, something can't create itself, that implies a designer. You know what? Too many so-called scientists and so-called teachers, they refuse to go where that's going to go. Can't go there because, what? The first two laws of thermodynamics point to God.
What?
Yep, them's the facts, Jack. And if not even the inorganic parts of the universe, the inorganic parts like space and rocks and all that kind of stuff, if those couldn't create themselves, well, how could even more complex organisms create themselves? Complex, like you and me, for example. It's not very likely, right? I'm not afraid to admit there's a God. I'm just not afraid to admit that. In fact, I rather like saying that because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, he exists. And even better than that, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, he loves me. Even though I've done nothing worthy of that love, except show enough humility to believe and trust in him. And ironic how that simple act of humility, belief, and trust is just too difficult for the majority of people on the planet. It's ironic and sad. I'm going to share this song and I'll be right back.
You wanna live the way you wanna live. You wanna be your own king. You think you're wise enough to rule your world and handle everything. you just don't get it. Don't you think you should think about it? Do you know all there is to know? There's a choice you can't live without it. You can be sure where you're gonna go. Where you're gonna go. Will you analyze? Will you analyze? Your body wants what it wants, and you let it. You let it. You identify what you defy. You'll see the kingdom, but you just don't get it. Yeah, you analyze. Will you analyze? Your body wants what it wants, and you let it. You let it. You identify what you defy. You'll see the kingdom, but you just don't get it. No, you just don't get it.
Yeah, that's a key thing. A vast amount of things that I share here on the Rhyme and Reason podcast and at TonyFunderburk.com are for the people who, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I doubt they're going to heaven. And the benefit of that doubt is I'm sharing the way to get there. And I don't want you to be, if you are one of those, I don't want you to be one of those who just don't get it. And that's what that song's about. Okay, now moving right along to that song of confidence, speaking of songs. Have you ever heard this quote? The truth is still true even if no one believes it, and a lie is still a lie even if everyone believes it. It makes total sense to someone who's willing to use logic and reason, anyway, instead of feelings, especially when it comes to decision making. And it's that kind of thinking that helps me sing a song of confidence, like the one you just heard, in the face of doubt and fear. And there's a lot of that going around right now. Singing a song of confidence, by the way, isn't about shoving my head in the sand. It's far from it. I mean, I'm keenly aware, I like that word, keenly. I'm keenly aware of all the doubt and fear going on in our country and in the world, here in America and in the world right now. People want answers to this pandemic thing, and rightfully so. But you know where you shouldn't look for answers right now? In speculative social media and news channels. Those aren't answers. Speculation almost always goes in a negative direction, at least when it comes to things like this public health scare. You'll see conspiracy theories pop up everywhere, and sometimes from sources you thought would know better. So who in the world are we supposed to trust then, Tony? Well, when all else fails, and even when nothing fails, trust God. But how am I supposed to trust God when He let this happen in the first place? Yeah, you know what? People actually ask hypocritical questions like that. You see the hypocrisy? Someone says they don't believe or trust in God, and then they lay the blame of things like this at His feet. I mean, so which is it? God doesn't exist, or if He does, He's to blame for everything. My confidence is in the mountains of evidence for God's existence and love. I know the one true living, loving creator of all heaven and earth. I know He will do justice to the fatherless and the oppressed, and that the man of the earth may oppress no more. That man of the earth, that's not saying someone who is going to heaven, by the way. That's why it's said that way. And what I just said was a quote from Psalms. So that's how I know that the one true living, loving creator of all heaven and earth exists and loves, and, I can have confidence in Him because He says so, all right? That's enough. And if you're listening to what I'm saying, with a big sense of doubt, I recommend you don't even take my word for it, especially if we've never met and you don't know me from Adam. See what I did there? Because you're going to get much further along in your quest for truth and trust when you go to the source. Yeah, check out the Bible. And if and when you can prove that it's wrong, then you can tell me where to get off, okay? But until then, I'm confidently in the hands of the most able engineer. And this chain, y'all, is bound for glory. I sing a song of confidence in what my God can do and how his love can conquer all the fear in me and you. But only if we choose his love and life and ask him to. I trust in God and in his word because I know it's true. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Rhyme and Reason. And as always, it's brought to you by TonyFunderburk.com, maker of fine books and merch, rhymes and reasons, and words and music. And by the way, just in case you forgot or hadn't thought about this in a while, there is a rhyme and reason to life because God made you.
There's a rhyme and reason.